Hello, I'm Ronnie Eldridge, and welcome to Eldridge and Company. Instead of talking politics with someone in my set, I thought it'd be exciting to talk to someone like Luke Hayes, who's out there today, and because he's young, hopefully he'll be there for many years. Luke is just back from Virginia.
Yes,
Hello.
Richmond, Virginia.
Yes. What did you do? You graduated from college?
I graduated in May, and I had the job lined up in June. Went down there and been there for the last 5 months.
Now, people are going to ask, where did you graduate from?
I graduated from Vassar College with a religious studies major.
And how did you get into this politics?
I've always really been interested in politics. The political theory didn't really grasp me so much freshman, sophomore year, yeah. But the practical use of politics, how to actually get people elected, get your ideas implemented.
And so, I mean, but you come about it with an ideological base?
Yes.
Are you driven to this because you're interested in pushing some kind of agenda?
Yeah, I definitely, I guess, would be very left agenda,
yeah.
I think there's some serious problems with, race, class, and gender in society, and I feel like politics offers a pragmatic way to kind of attack those issues and kind of break down barriers.
I wanted to talk about Virginia, but I also wanted to know, how many of the students at college could you interest in this?
Well, actually, I got, for one of my big projects senior year was going back to Ohio, where I'd worked, before my senior year, and I got 38 kids to caravan out for election day in Columbus, Ohio. So,
and that was in the presidential election.
That was in the presidential election. So there's a potential.
Somehow I don't think that people who haven't been involved in politics or don't come from a family or that
right.
How they get that interest, I don't know. Fully understand how much of our life really is affected by it.
It's a little frustrating. I think also it's like just the political culture and the way a lot of people portray it is that they're all corrupt, they're all liars. And so by the time you're 20, it's kind of like, well, how does a politician affect me? Right. He's not even courting my vote. And that's another thing is I think the youth vote is so ignored because it's a catch-22. They don't really vote that much, therefore politicians aren't going to go after people that don't vote, and it's just...
and so it's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, why don't they vote? Because of that whole original thing that it doesn't matter, or?
I think it's a combination of apathy and, I think kids are coming out of school and I think they're torn because they're filled, a lot of liberal arts schools fill them with all this theory and you're going to save the world by doing this, this, and this, and then you get to the real world and, theory obviously doesn't really play out too well in society.
How many of them want to make money?
I think it depends on where you go and what major. I know at Vassar, like a lot of kids, really, they have a passion that they really want to engage in, and money's kind of always nice, but not their
You come
first.
from a family that's politically interested.
Yes.
And also in organizing. I mean, they know how to really change a neighborhood or help with an
definitely.
issue.
I kind of grew up with a civic spirit, that, you have to engage in society in order to change it for the better.
So after college, you went to Virginia.
Exactly.
Because there was what?
There was a governor's race.
And it was a hot race.
It was a very hot race. It was Governor Warner, who's very popular there. He can't run for a second term, consecutive term.
How long are the terms? 4 years?
4 years.
And they're only in for one consecutive, one year?
One consecutive. He could run in 2009 if he wanted to, but he's got, I think, some other
plans. And he's a Democrat?
He's a Democrat.
Let's just stop there for a minute. How does being a governor for only 4 years, how does that affect the performance of the government?
I think it really helps you kind of focus your energies, and because of that, it's like you have 4 years in, so I think you really have to concentrate on like one or two issues that you really just want to like push through, so you can have at least one legacy to show.
And does it empower the civil service or the permanent government? It must, don't you think?
It does, although from what I understand, when Senator George Allen was governor, they did kind of, Jerry Kilgore was his public safety advisor, and
he was the opponent in this.
Yes, he was the opponent, right. And I think they try to keep the kind of the people in civil service, but I think there is a fair amount of like you try to get your friends hired in and kind of stuff it.
We've got term limits in New York in the city now, and it's 2 terms. The city council wants to extend it at least to 3 terms.
I've read
Most people would like to eliminate it altogether. But I thought that term limits had a definite impact in the election for mayor. That it was going well, so why change it?
Right.
And is that also a phenomenon that happened in Virginia?
It was, and that was what a lot of what we campaigned on was, listen, Warner can't run for a second term, but his approval ratings were 70%. So we were trying to say, if you really like what Warner does, Tim Kaine's his logical successor. He's got a lot of great ideas to kind of continue the success, and we really tried to piggyback that idea that.
And he was the lieutenant governor.
That's correct.
Although he was elected independently.
He was elected independently.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you did this campaign. It was not expected that the Democrat would win, was it?
No, we were down 10 points in June and July.
And it's basically a Republican state, Republican-leaning state.
Republican-leaning state. It's
It has 2 Republican senators.
Yes, it's got 2 Republican senators, and they kind of show the 2 types of Republicans there. Senator Warner is kind of more moderate. Doesn't hate the government altogether, and there's kind of like the moderate suburbanite Republicans, and then George Allen kind of represents more the extreme right wing in kind of both religiously and like economically.
Right. So this campaign went 10 points down in June, and you won, and he won.
Won by 5.5, 6 points.
And what do you think what made that victory?
Well, I remember actually when I was in training in June, we went down there and they showed the poll numbers and it was like, well, we're down 10. What's going to happen? And they showed that all of our internals show that when his name recognition goes up, people learn about his ideas, his numbers go up. Whereas Jared Kilgore was stagnant at 45, 46. And I think the big reason we had such a large field campaign so early was to spread his name, spread his ideas. And I think when it came down to it, people saw that Kaine was campaigning on ideas. I'm for this, whereas Kilgore, attacked illegal immigrants, attacked Kaine's death penalty stance, and just didn't really have a message that was positive or forward-thinking.
So you went down there as a volunteer to do field. Mm-hmm. Did you get paid?
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
You get a stipend or what? How much do you get paid?
I got paid $1,700 a month.
So what does that come to? It's like, it's a little more than $400 a week.
Yeah, just about.
Then do they provide housing, or do you have to pay for your housing?
A lot of times, workers will find houses, and I actually went in with a fellow canvasser. Sometimes, though, they'll go
Did you have to pay the rent, or did you stay with somebody?
No, I paid the rent. Although some supporters, some volunteers do, have an extra bedroom because their kids at school or something like that.
So then, explain what a field operation is.
A field operation is kind of the grunt work of a campaign. If you need to win, like field projects how many votes in total you need to win, which means you have to knock on so many doors, make so many phone calls, do so many things to really get your base mobilized, So
they look at the state and they divide it up into areas or regions, and then they give you a goal?
Exactly. And I was in Chesterfield County, which is a county just south of Richmond. And, it was one of those calculated loss counties where it was, Republican, but we wanted to lose by as little as possible. Yeah. And, we had goals for what we need to hit and what we need to contribute to help.
And so how did you work? How did it come out?
It went very well. We went 2 points higher than we thought we would in Chesterfield. We got 45% there. And in comparison to last year, Kerry got 37% there. So there's definitely a big growth for.
So you're really the feet, or whatever, of all of this new kind of scientific campaigning.
Yeah. It's that's one of my favorite parts.
It's really talking to people.
Exactly.
Tell us what you did.
Well, for the first 4 months, I would canvass 5 days a week, Monday through Thursday from 4 to 8.
That means you go knock on a doorbell?
Knock on doors, you get your little map, you would have a Palm Pilot, and it was very well done. They had, in our Palm Pilot, there were targeted voters. So we would go after infrequent Democrats, independents, moderate Republicans that we saw potential, to say, hey, if you like Governor Warner, you'll probably like Lieutenant Governor Kaine.
Kaine was an interesting person, and one of the things that has been reported since then is that he is very religious, or quite religious, and that he talked about faith. How did he do that?
I think he was very open about it. He was, he always said, like, I'm a devoted Catholic, and I think what I think he did very well was he presented himself as very a secular Catholic, in that he had very strong beliefs that he personally held, and influenced his policy decisions. But I think he also made a distinct like declaration that once I'm a governor of a state, I can't impose religious beliefs on 7.5 million people that may not agree with me.
How do you think he differs from the candidates for the Supreme Court, or Alito now?
Well, I think he's a little more moderate, and he's also, I think he's got a real devotion to the state and to you know, upholding the law. You know, he's a Harvard-trained lawyer, so.
He was also a missionary of some kind, wasn't he?
Yes, he was at Harvard Law School where he actually met Governor Warner, you know, 20 years prior. He took a year off to become a missionary in Honduras, where he was a principal or teacher at a vocational school. And, you know, I think that heavily influenced him. He mentioned it a lot. And,
so, so he's an attractive candidate.
Yes, yes. He was, you know, he had that pass, and then, you know, he came right out of law school and did civil rights work, you know, fair housing, equal lending in the Richmond area. And I think, you know, he had a real, it was nice. He wasn't a career politician. He, you know, got in for a cause. And I think he slowly got into politics because, you know, he felt like that was the best
So he had a basic ideology that drove him.
Exactly.
And the commitment to really make the world better, not just looking for a job.
Exactly. I think he really wanted to, you know, try the, you know, civil rights stuff, and then kind of slowly got into city council and mayor and so forth.
So that it's now taken as a model for, especially for Democrats. How are we going to defeat the Republicans? Is it going to be taken the right way, do you think?
I hope so. I think there's still some growing pains we have to do. I think the one good thing about losing 2004 is I think Democrats finally had to face up to the fact that they haven't been doing their job for the past 30 years. And they just, you know, I think it really made them refocus their energies. And I think there are going to be some awkward, you know, some swings, some misses. But I think overall, I think we're on the right track.
Do you think of yourself as a Democrat, or are you interested in the Democratic Party in the future?
Yeah. Yes, I think
so. You believe basically in a two-party system?
I do. I believe there is growth for in third parties. I like New York State's fusion balloting because I feel two parties, I think, aid to efficiency, but I feel that fusion balloting does allow
the pressure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think.
And are you involved at all in party politics?
Not so much. You know, obviously, I was an employee of the state party. I wasn't with the Kane campaign. It was actually with the Virginia coordinated campaign. So I'm involved, yes, but not, you know.
Have you hooked up with other young Democrats, young progressive people like you, to try to make an impact more than just on one election, but on the Democratic Party?
Friends of mine, like, we talk about how, you know, college Democrats, you know, like, just college Democrats compared to college Republicans, you know, are totally just really inefficient. Kind of, you know, I think the youth vote.
As compared to?
The college Republicans run a very efficient system.
Tell us that.
Well, they just, there's much more ties with the national party. They get people engaged. They're very well organized, and they just get people, you know, even if it's, you know, 20% of their campus population, they will aggressively court that 20%. Whereas I think college Democrats often don't get very involved with local campaigns. I don't mean to blanket all of them, but
but do they get involved with the national leadership of the party? That's where I think.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to advise you.
No, it's fine.
I think you guys should get together and make an appointment and go down and see Howard Dean. I think it's very important if you have a perspective for the future, because it's not going to be just enough to elect a governor here, a senator here. You've got to really affect this party and what all these people are saying.
Yeah.
And so you've got that central part of the government that says, oh, we have to be in the middle. We can't take a you know, positive position here. We can't do this. And it seems to me that you guys want to see somebody taking a position.
Yeah, we actually are, a lot of frustration with my coworkers and friends was 2006 is kind of presenting itself as, you know, a very good opportunity to, you know, make some gains in Congress and Senate, but we're kind of waiting for a message. You know, I think the Democrats are still kind of, you know, they're dancing around the Iraq issue, and they're, you know, it's like, what are they standing for? And not to take too much from
Now, when do you get to the point where you say, we can't wait for the message, we want to have them change the message? See, you got a lot of power.
Yeah.
I mean, you do. You know, it's always a cliche, children are the future and all of that, but you are going to be the future of the Democratic Party, and you do have a lot of power. And it seems to me that you owe it to the rest of us to get yourself somehow telling these Democrats this is what you guys want.
Well, that's what we're, you know, working in campaigns for. It's a step in the right direction. We're hoping.
No, I don't mean to say it's not.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
We're hoping in, you know, 3 years we all get to kind of manage and help run and really kind of influence at policy level.
And maybe run as delegates someplace.
Yes. No, a lot of people like I'd worked with were interested in running.
Do you have a special candidate that you're interested in right now and for governor?
For
president?
Personally, I really like Russ Feingold. I think he's a great candidate. I really like his ideas on a lot of issues. Unfortunately, I don't know how electable he is in the Democratic primary, unfortunately. But he's one person that I really think has some great ideas, has been consistent, and I think people always know where he stands, which is why I think he gets a lot.
So he's the one who's presenting the challenge to the rest of the party.
Yes, I feel like he definitely is a voice of reason.
Is he putting together a campaign yet?
I've heard there's a lot of speculation. There's about 20 Democrats out there that are thinking of running. So I think he's definitely making some.
There's an interesting thing happening in Virginia this week, and that is that a man's going to be executed. Yeah. It's not so interesting. Yeah. It's really, I think,
Yeah.
But and Kane ran. He was attacked by Kilgore for being against the death penalty, although he took this position that he's personally opposed to the death penalty, but he would carry out the state law. Warner, who's a candidate for president, has the power, I guess, doesn't he?
Right, yeah.
To commute the sentence.
He does.
But it doesn't look like he's going to do it.
No, Warner's on the record as supporting the death penalty. And I feel that was actually kind of a tough ethical issue for me, just because I respected Kane's position, and it's one of those, like 70% of Virginians supported the death penalty. So it's one of those, what do you do as, a representative of a state where, overwhelming support for a position that you personally think is...
But when you canvassed people, did you find that it was very difficult to talk to them? I mean, are there people who just are totally opposite in how they look at issues and their views? But if you're canvassing, you obviously believe you could change their mind. Yeah.
You counted, I mean, there was like two sides of the coin. There were some people that were receptive to what you had to say on a couple issues. The kind of, these moderates that, maybe didn't agree with all this right-wing, religious right rhetoric, but were kind of like a little cool to Democrats. And I think those are the people that you really took advantage of, because, they were usually like, smart, knew some of the issues, education was big for them, transportation and so forth. But some people really, you got to their door and they would let you have it on, a litany of issues.
Do you think that the death penalty is a real deciding position for a voter? That somebody wouldn't vote for a candidate if that person opposed or supported the death penalty? I mean, in opposite to their view?
I don't think so.
Neither
I think
do
it's maybe 1 to 2% of the population on either side. Really, it's that strong a belief. It's unfortunate, personally I think it's, it's an issue.
I think that the political will and politicians think it is, so that's what makes it, right?
Yeah, they're
afraid.
Yeah, they look for wedge issues, which is what Kilgore's campaign constantly did. They attacked the death penalty, they attacked illegal immigrants, they attacked, anything they could just to try to, make some noise and get some attention.
The death penalty issue is, I mean, it's terrible. We've got this man in California who's he's been in prison since 1987, and now they're going to execute him for what he did then. And now we have this policeman who was killed in New York, and there's going to be enormous pressure to go for the death penalty. And I don't know, but I don't think that district attorney is particularly in favor of it. And when you realize all the pressures and the different stages in the process to decide whether someone's going to be executed, it's just staggering.
Yeah.
And so ridiculous. I mean, well, anyway. Do you think that there are, so in line with the agreeing or being able to find common ground, don't you think there are common concerns that a candidate ought to be able to bridge?
Yes.
What would they be?
I think common concerns are, I think the right and the left have a legit saying of like, family, what's the state of the American family? Right. And while I don't necessarily agree with their attacks on, what a family should look like, I think,
it's the way you present it.
Exactly, exactly. And I think, people, on the most part, they want to have like a comfortable life. Obviously, I think we trump it up as like, oh, they want to, be super rich and have this and this. But I think most people, they want to have, a comfortable existence in a nice house, be able to, get their kids to school, get them to college, maybe,
go to a doctor.
Exactly. Yeah. I think just like
some security.
Exactly. Security, I think, is a good way to say.
I was fortunate enough, and that's what I was saying, that you're young, so you aren't back, which is a very good thing, but in a way it's not. Robert Kennedy was able to sort of bridge that with what people have categorized as blue collar and this and that. The Bloomberg people did some interesting polling. Have you heard about that and looked at it? Not so much. I kind of saw headlines from the Times when I could, but I didn't really what they did is they broke up the traditional ethnic blocks. Okay. And they did questionnaires and really went after specific concerns and then addressed that group who had that same concern. And it was a refinement, and it just made more categories. And then Ferrer was talking recently about why he lost, and so was one of his close associates. Wasn't Rivera? It was the other.
There's Joel Rivera, Ramirez.
And Ramirez was saying that the Latinos didn't support him, and Ferrer is saying that he was surprised. I mean, he had counted on that. So one is saying, well, no, Ramirez really said people aren't ready for a Latina.
Right.
Which I don't think is true. I think that's totally untrue.
Right. Yeah.
But it is this traditional block voting that has always, I thought, been a gross exaggeration of what's going to happen.
Yeah, and I feel like in New York especially plays itself out because, you know, it's overwhelmingly Democratic. So the difference, you know, in the primary there were some issues that I think the candidates differed on, but if you looked at, if you took a step back, they're very, there's not much difference between them. So I think in New York you really get these, if you can get, the Italian and the Irish and the Puerto Rican vote against the Black, Greek, and Korean, it's just
it's just
yeah,
and that further divides.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah,
exactly.
So what are you going to do next? Where do you think you'll go?
I want to go to a swing state, another kind of,
A swing state is what? Is a state
yeah.
that's elected some and
Democrats and some
got, Republicans?
Democratic potential. Like I don't think I'd be going to Idaho or something like that. But
and what states do you think they are?
I think Ohio and Missouri. They have two Senate races there. Nevada has a Senate race. Arizona has a Senate race. I think Rhode Island has a Senate race. Maine. There's 34 of them out there. So
you're really looking to get involved in a Senate race, you think?
Senate race, yeah. Just try something new.
So that'll be 2 years, and then 2 years later, you'll most likely hang around for the presidential election.
That's the plan. That's the plan.
And then what do you do 4 years from now?
4 years from now, my life goal has only really reached 2008. After school, I said, I'm going to go work on campaigns till 2008 to get a Democrat elected president. Then after that, I'll kind of take a step back and maybe, pursue some other interests.
So you majored in religious studies.
I did.
And how does that have a connection? Does it?
It does. I think I just found the reason I liked really religion to study it is it's a great way to kind of view history and anthropology. There's so much, religion has always been kind of a constant for human history, the belief in the higher being. And just now I think it's getting a lot more play of, religiosity in America and how do Democrats appeal to religious voters and is the Republican Party the only religious party? And for me, as someone who considers myself, very left-wing but also, religious or spiritual, it kind of always irked me that, these people are out there, saying, God hates you, you, and you, where it's like, well, I don't,
I can't
on
quite
whose authority,
that.
yeah.
Or, God is on our side.
Yeah, I found that kind of very insulting that, kind of, to play sides with God. It's just very, I feel like it's...
So does it bring you to a different sensitivity about the world also? If you want to translate it into government, believe in internationalism?
It does. I think religion, that's another thing it does bridge the gap, I think, between, groups that may, on appearance, may not get together, but I think it definitely gives kind of a worldview. So I think, I definitely think religion kind of helps you think of the community as a whole, as a larger. I'm
married to a Catholic, and I've gone to church with him, and he's gone to temple with me, and his basic thing is it's all the same.
Yeah,
underlying it, if in fact you're talking about spirituality, and so that's very important. It seems to me in the future, as we see more and more the nation of people who are Islamic, and really how we ever get along with them instead of seeing them as terrorists.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's important to truly understand the religion. I think people kind of now, in post 9/11, you kind of saw some interest in Islam. But I still think it's, the kind of information that's being spread about isn't completely telling the whole story. And I also think if you're going to be going over the history and the theology of Islam, I think, Americans should probably go over their own, their own religion, their own theology, and their own history, because it's, I think it's, pointing the finger for them for, committing a quote-unquote holy war. It's like, well, I don't think a Christian nation can ever kind of absolve itself from, a history of violence. Yeah.
So are you, what's your position on the war, on Iraq?
I was against it from day one. I never really thought the weapons of mass destruction was a legit charge, just based on...
Why did we, we have a minute left,
right.
But why do you and I know that there were no weapons of mass destruction there, and all these experts didn't?
Just from a political standpoint, I think Saddam's a politician,
yeah.
and you're not going to piss off the biggest military in the world with kind of, I just think it was...
So you're not cynical in that you don't believe what the government says? Or maybe,
yes and no.
Maybe this
yes
government you don't believe.
Yeah, I'm not so trustworthy of this government.
And when you were campaigning in Virginia, was there discussion of the theory of evolution, and did that become an issue?
It didn't, actually, which I was actually happy about, because it I feel like that kind of opens up some ugly fights.
Right. And that's another fight, isn't it, about just language?
Yeah.
More than basic, nobody is saying that there wasn't a spirit that provided
right.
the
No,
first
I think
molecule or whatever it was.
I think a lot of religious people believe in, personally, I believe in evolution, but I think there was a distinct difference between, our ancestors and then, the soul and a human, whether...
Right. Yeah. So should we say if anybody has an interest in finding you to go work in a campaign?
Yes.
Do you have a little email that they can email you?
It's luke.hayes@gmail.
So. Oh, that's so good. So I hope you wind up in a state where you help elect a Democrat, and that there will be friends of yours like you who will elect other Democrats, and we'll have a Democratic majority in the Senate.
That's what I'm hoping for.
But I also want you to promise that you're going to go to Washington.
I will.
All right.
That's on the list.
Thank you very much, Luke.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you. If there are any people you'd like to hear and topics you'd like us to explore, please let me know. You can write to me at CUNY TV, 365 Fifth Avenue, New York, New York, 10016, or you can go to the website at cuny.tv and click on Contact Us. I look forward to hearing from you.